Hello everybody, it's Connor. We are back here with another One Leeds video. Hope you're all doing fantastically well on this glum and gloomy Friday, which is very symptomatic of the international break. A break which we all don't want. We all want Leeds United to be back in full flow, playing Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Sunday, all that good stuff. But we're not. We get a time to adjust, a time to break from the hysteria that is Championship football. And yeah, we're back here to discuss, on the back of Angus Kinnear's comments, players that Leeds United should target in January. And I think this is something that's on a lot of people's minds. Are there going to be loans? Are there going to be permanent signings? I think this is an opportunity in the January transfer window to massively develop on the talent that you've already got, but also something to keep in mind. If you do not go out in January and you have not fixed every single position that you tried to do in the summer, sometimes you can feel, or you can find yourself, I should say, left behind in the race because teams in and around you will strengthen. That might be because of injuries to their side. You know, we saw Wes Burns for Wales go off with a problematic shoulder. You know, if that was a long-term thing, hypothetically, that would see Ipswich dip into the transfer market, presumably in the January window. Leeds could be facing something very, very similar. You would expect Leicester to also delve into the transfer market. So Leeds United simply have to, in my opinion, address some of the unbalanced areas of the squad. We're going to get into exactly who Leeds United should be targeting, in my opinion, in January. So guys, number one for me, the GK, the goalkeeper. Now I'm hearing a lot of people at this moment in time saying, Illan Mellier's had an unbelievable season. He's definitely improved. I think that's a load of poppycock. I think that's rubbish. I think the reason I'm making that point, it's not to get down on Illan Mellier. I think we're still seeing those clownish moments from him. I still think we've seen moments this season which are Illan Mellier in a nutshell when it comes to handling, dropped, distribution, which still isn't good enough for me. And I think he's almost been... It's been eased on him because of the brilliant sort of defending attributes of someone like, Ethan Ampadu or Joe Rodon or Pascal Struijk or Sam Byram, which, in this Leeds side have been overperforming this season. Contextualising all of that with a possession-based system and the lower calibre sides that we are facing, Illan Mellier is going to face a lot less shots. Now, there has been shots this season. I look at the Watford game in the last minute where he made a brilliant save. There has been moments this season where he has been the Illan Mellier that we know he can be. But distribution, handling, as I've mentioned earlier on, is still very, very poor. The defence, in my opinion, do not look completely confident when Illan Mellier is facing a set piece. And that, I think that was almost made clear when Sam Byram headed the ball off the line in the last game. Illan was just nowhere to be seen, and this is symptomatic, once again, using that word, of what Illan Mellier's entire career has been. I don't think there's been enough development from the Marcelo Bielsa era. There hasn't whatsoever, and I thought he was dipping in that phase when obviously Bielsa was losing a lot of games towards the end of his tenure. So for me, a goalkeeper needs to be addressed. Now, Carl Darlow seems fine in the wings, just being number two. But I said at the start of the season, there needs to be a replacement for Illan Mellier. That hasn't changed for me. Now, a lot of people will say, well, Connor, he's had X amount of clean sheets. Well, David De Gea was lauded, and I believe he got the Golden Glove, did he? 2 years on the bounce, but he was siphoned out by Man United. For me, I'd take a look at a goalkeeper called Victor Johansson. He made his Swedish debut last night, and listen, he's looking fantastic. I saw the extended highlights of him playing in a Rotherham setup, which we're going to get to in a little bit, but playing in a Rotherham setup against Southampton. He was absolutely unbelievable, and this season he's been one of the highest performing goalkeepers. He's destined for a bigger move. Rotherham fans can see that. And I think, all the media surrounding Victor Johansson is seeing that as well. Him being part of the Sweden setup is, it's not a huge accolade. No offence to any Sweden fans in the building here for this video, but it is a big standard upgrade when you are at Rotherham, and it's a big sort of tick on your box. And I think he's been very, very good when you're looking at his performance rating. Now, the only thing I would be looking at with Victor Johansson, one positive as well I'm throwing in there, is he is an excellent handler of the ball, is his distribution, because he's been part of a Rotherham setup that are not forced to distribute. They're not forced. Rotherham, we know what they're all about. It's the ball in the air, and he's not forced to be getting the ball at the back and playing it out to a Sam Byram or playing it out to a Jamie Jackson, whatever. So that is something he would have to, put into his play. But that's, Tim Krul, a brilliant example at Norwich, who wasn't used to that, wasn't used to getting the ball and distributing it to his centre-backs and distributing it to his full-backs, which is what Daniel Farke encouraged, and he adapted to that very well. You've just got to have those attributes that, you know, can be harnessed by a coach. And I believe Victor Johansson is young enough. And yeah, for me, I'd be looking at someone like him. He'd be a cheap acquisition as well. And I don't think there's any risk there. I really don't think there's any risk there from what we've got with Ilan Mele, because I think when you look at Ilan's attributes, I don't think they outweigh Victor Johansson's whatsoever. And I think Victor Johansson has got a ceiling. What I'm going to say, everybody, is I'm going to put like little compilations. I'm going to put little links of all of these players if I can find them in the link below, and you guys can have a look and make your opinions. But yeah, for a goalkeeper, I'd definitely be looking at a goalkeeper, obviously, but Victor Johansson, it'd be someone who'd be an absolute steal. Next, guys, would be a centre-back for me. A lot of reliance for me on Joe Rodon, and Pascal Struijk, I think, has been absolutely unbelievable. This one would be a real... I mean, this would be one of the signings of the window. It'd be up there with Ethan Ampadu. It's Nathan Wood at Swansea, who, what a player. Now, I keep talking about a comparison of Joe Rodon to Ben White. This guy is Ben White at this level in terms of what we saw and what we still see from Ben White to this day at that Arsenal, in that Arsenal side, albeit at right back. An excellent ball progressor, someone who's so comfortable in tight situations, very aggressive, young, has the ceiling is so high with Nathan Wood. And yeah, I think there was a lot of chat in the summer about Leeds going out and getting a centre-back. I mentioned it on Twitter, and I mentioned it on a Patreon video as well, that Nathan Wood would be the target. Obviously, I didn't know about Joe Rodon at that point, but he is a top player and will be reaching that next level. I think Leeds need to go for another centre-back because, if Joe Rodon is out of this setup, the drop off to Liam Cooper is just so vast. Nathan Wood is playing football week in, week out, but if you're able to give him a guarantee that we're going to be playing Premier League football next year, I think that'd be great. But for me, what a signing that would be. And if you to go on market value, you're probably looking at 5 to 10 million, hopefully. But yeah, he looks excellent. Nathan Wood would be my pick at centre back. Next, everybody, I've gone for a little bit of an all rounder here. It's Yasser Asprilla at Watford. Now, Asprilla is someone who has been catching the eye for a season or so now. He is a very leggy Colombian, someone who's excellent on the ball. In my opinion, can play multiple different positions. And like I say, everybody, the compilations, the YouTube compilations will be in the description below. He's someone who was spoken about at work, and I went and did a little bit of research on him, and he looks excellent. Someone who could play in that central attacking midfield role, but also could play in the deep lying roles. He'd probably take the place of someone like Gruev, which probably sounds counterproductive in terms of he is a left footer, distributes the ball, is always looking forward, basically a sexy football player. He's a sexy football player. You watch him and you think, wow, talent, press resistant, someone who can, and a ball progressor as well, which is something that you always need, but looks aggressive in the tackle as well. Watford do pick up gems. They do pick up gems. I was going to look at the left back position, maybe Hassan Kamara, who was excellent last season. They've got a good network there of players who they do pick and bring in who really are sort of have the ceiling of next level. And I think Asprilla is that. Only young, looks like an absolute superb talent who can play a variety of positions. So that's someone who I'd look at in January as well. Could probably pick him up for a decent fee as well. Right, guys, next is the left-back position. Now, we cannot rely on Sam Byram for a season. I saw him on the Leeds United official podcast the other day saying that they bring a machine. Every single time he's playing away from home, there's someone who carries a machine to make his leg better or make his, whatever problems he's got and to harness recovery and all this sort of stuff. And you just turn around and think to yourself, bloody hell. He's almost on that edge, and he pretty much admitted that on the podcast, the Leeds United podcast the other day. You cannot be relying on Sam Byram for a full season injury-wise because it's going to come around the corner. And then once again, the drop-off to Sam Byram is Junior Firpo, and the only justification people give for Junior Firpo is the fact that he might be good for Daniel Farke and he might be good at the Championship, and that's not good enough for me. It's not a good enough justification. You need someone in who is going to be absolutely a guarantee that they are going to be top, and that's why I've gone for Kenneth Pal. Kenneth Pal is a Dutch left back who plays for QPR. And he's played 11 times this season, played against Leeds United, which was actually one of his lowest ratings, which is credit to our wingers. And he's definitely someone who I would look at in the January window. And the reason behind that is because he's got everything you want. He'll get forward. He's a good defender. He's an aggressive defender, but he's an aggressive attacker as well. So he's got that balance perfect. He's so left-footed, it's unbelievable. But he has scored a couple of screamers with his right foot as well. But yeah, as I say, he's scored 3 goals already this season, which I find quite staggering. We've looked at who scored here for a little bit more detail on Kenneth Powell, but he's got a 6.71 rating. But he looks very good. He looks very good, and he's someone who would be available for a lesser value. And the reason I mention all these players, everybody, is because I think they're realistic, and someone like him would be able to come into this Leeds United setup and I think do pretty well. So and also he could be almost like, if you're using Sam Byram, if you want to start Sam Byram, Kenneth Powell is someone who definitely could come in as a substitute at whatever point and be happy with that. If you're giving him, the guarantee that next season he'll be, you could play in the Premier League. And that's another thing with a lot of these players, that they're high-end Championship, maybe lower Premier League players, which is definitely something you need to look at when you're assessing that long-term value. Obviously, guys, the next one would be Charlie Taylor, but Taylor seems to have turned it around at Burnley. He's played the last 5 games, 90 minutes, and yeah, I think Charlie would have been an ideal sign at the start of the window. I still think he'd definitely listen to Leeds United. He would definitely move to Leeds United, but I don't think Burnley would listen to that move. I know for a fact they blocked the move in summer when Leeds did have conversations with him, so I think that one's dead as the dodo. And last one for me, everybody, would be Divin Mbama. Now, I think a lot of you guys will be going, who? Now, obviously, with the work I do, my job, I do get it's lucky that I do get to look at every facet of the football club that I do a bit of work with in Manchester City and the next level down, which obviously is when they're playing with the under-21s and it is Premier League 2 and all this sort of stuff. Mbama is someone who plays for West Ham. And he's been excellent, scored, I think it was 12 goals in PL2 last season, which got him, I believe, an EFL Cup appearance and a Europa League appearance. A lot of people at West Ham think he's fantastic. He's a striker. Now, the reason I mention this is because do Leeds need someone who's just going to chip in every now and again, a youngster who's going to be in and around that first team, but probably isn't going to get a lot of minutes. He's not obviously got in a lot of minutes for West Ham at the minute. He's 19 years of age. Could Leeds do an Eddie Nketiah, go to Mbama, go to West Ham and say, look, come to us for 6 months, chip in with a few goals, Eddie Nketiah-esque. He's not at what Eddie was in terms of his development when he came to Leeds, but I think that's the perfect thing. Someone to come in, chip in with a few goals here and there, just in and around the box, and know that they are going to be pure rotation. But yeah, that's going to be it for me, guys. I'm going to leave a link for every player in the description below if you want to go check them out yourself. Leave your suggestions in the comment section below as well. I'll read them all. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Where would you move in the summer? In the winter window? Who would you go for? What positions would you go for? Do you disagree or agree with what I'm saying? Guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.